Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kingfisher. As always, please, guys, subscribe to our channel. Go down below, there's a little bell icon. You're going to click that, it's going to let you know all the notifications that come through. So as we do a video, and you're not going to miss out any of the fantastic content that we're putting out. Also, if you like the video, please click like. If you don't like the video, please click like and carry on. Okay, guys, let's talk about the species today. We are going to be talking about one of the probably most prolific game fish off our coast, and probably one of the most targeted species, definitely from the ski boat and fishing ski facets. We're going to be talking about, of course, the yellowfin tuna. Now, the yellowfin scientific name, Tunus albicaris. There are quite a few different tuna species, but yellowfin is probably the most popular, definitely off KZN. But in the world, I'd probably say yellowfin will be number one, if not, then number two. Albacores and big-eye tuna, longfin tuna, bluefin tuna are kind of the big five. I think I counted five. Yeah, possibly. So yeah, there are quite a few different tuna species, but the yellowfin, definitely in terms of South Africa, is probably your biggest in terms of numbers and biomass caught. They are found from or along the entire South African coast, up to about, I'd say, a depth of about 350 meters. So from literally backline, we've caught them on the backline, all the way out to a depth of about 350, but normally less than, say, 100 meters deep, generally. This is talking about the sort of your average size. You do get the bigger fish off False Bay and off Cape Point, obviously, and those guys go a lot deeper sometimes, but your standard tuna that we get up here in KZN particularly are in that sort of, I'd say, 10 to about 30 kilo range, and those guys you're going to be catching from about 25 meters deep out to about, I'd say, 60, 70 meters deep. Now, tuna, yellowfin tuna don't really have any other names, so that's one big benefit. It's just scientific and your standard. There's a nickname for them called gas bottles, which kind of describes their overall sort of shape in a sense. They're quite round in cross section, and they're very, very stout fish. They've got quite a lot of mass to them for their size. They don't have that long tail of like a longfin tuna, or long-tailed tuna at least. They fairly robust. They've got long pec fins that they've actually got a little, along the side of their body, they've got a little, I'd say, I'm trying to find out how to describe this now. They've got a spot there where their pec fins can actually fold in, which makes them extremely aerodynamic, or in this terms, hydrodynamic in terms of things. Unless you're throwing tuna, it's going to be hydrodynamic. Now, that little spot there helps when they're swimming very quickly, that they've got very little resistance as they're moving forward. And that's when they use on top, just between the dorsal fin and the tail fin, you'll see they've got these little yellow scoots that run along the top. Or they're not really scoots, they're pre-caudal fins in essence. But they run along the top and the bottom of the body. And they can actually change angles like that. If you ever catch a yellowfin, you'll see them. They can move up and down, or side to side. So when they're at speed, those tiny little changes, it's almost like a supercar when you're going at very, very high speeds, and it uses those little flaps just to keep pressure on the different sides of the car. So yeah, very, very clever in terms of hydrodynamics and actually swimming. They've got a lunate tail, so it's not a V, it's not a solid tail, it's actually shaped like a crescent moon, so they call it lunate, crescent like that. And yeah, overall a bluey kind of sheen on the top, got accents of green and yellow in it all over the place, and a very, very silvery stomach with white running right down the middle. In terms of what they eat, anything they can sort of get their mouths around, they will chow. I've chatted to a few people, and it comes a little bit down to personal preference when it's to choice of bait. I've caught them on live shad, I've caught them on live mozzie, I've caught them on live mackerel. So I'd say a mackerel is always going to be preferential, but there's something called a butter mozzie, so it's a normal maspanger, but it's got a very, very big eye. We'll see if we can get a picture of one of those. That is my favorite bait offshore of all time. But anyway, live mackerel is probably number one in terms of number of tuna caught on it, but when it comes to live bait, whatever you can get, as long as it's fresh, it's going to produce. In terms of times of year, summer is their spawning time, so October through to March, that kind of time. and they're going to spawn up more in the tropical areas, and then the temperate waters where they come to feed. So you're looking winter being quite a peak time for your big tuna, but the more, I'd say in the last sort of 5 years, it's kind of been an all-round, all-year kind of species. So you could almost guarantee tuna off the coast of Durban, I'd say 11 out of the 12 months of the year, but they do tend to pick up a little bit more in the winter season. One of the most important things, if you guys are going to keep the tuna for eating, they are a fairly sustainable species, so I'd recommend that over something like a rock cod or any other species that you're going to catch. If you are going to catch them, make sure you bleed them properly. Now, there are a couple of ways of doing this. Most of the guys go next to the pec fin. They put the knife straight in there, and that obviously pierces the middle bloodline, bleeds it out. Other guys like to cut a ring around the tail, which also works very well. You can also do where the pelvic fins up at the top here. Just below that, if you go in at about a 45-degree angle, you go straight in there, you actually go straight into the tuna's heart, and it bleeds out a hell of a lot quicker. So there are a few different ways of doing it, but bleeding your tuna makes the world of difference when it comes to the actual quality of the meat. They are a fairly fast maturing fish. You're looking at about I'd say about 2 years to get to maturity, and that's going to be a length of about a meter or so. So to get to that size, they eat a hell of a lot. They're constantly eating. That's why they caught quite frequently as well, because they can't just sit around and be lazy. They have to swim, they have to get food, so they're very active predators. You're going to find them, as we mentioned earlier, they're oceanic fish, so you're going to find them off from the bottom, mostly from the surface down to probably about, as you mentioned, about 20 meters or so. So in that upper water level, they are capable of reaching massive sizes. Now, off Cape Town is where we get our biggest tuna. I mean, off Durban, we were discussing with some guys earlier, the sizes of the actual tuna has gone up dramatically. We used to have a 20-kilo tuna was massive. Now a 20-kilo tuna is sort of snarked at. You got fish now coming off of fishing skis that are pushing 40 or even more kilos, which is phenomenal. Richards Bay is the closest place to KZN that we get, well, closest place to Durban that we get big tuna. And there they do regularly get fish of 80 and 90 kilos or so. So there's a close fishery if you are looking for a big boy. But otherwise, down Cape Town is where you're going to break the 100-kilo mark. So that is a massive fish, and it is a hell of a fight. In terms of the max size, I think the maximum recorded size is about 193 kilos. If I'm not mistaken, it's 193.7 to be exact. And that fish was aged at 9 years old. So they grow extremely quickly. That also ties in with them being a lot more sustainable in terms of actually keeping. In terms of our sort of tuna fishing, most of it is done from offshore, obviously. We do get the occasional ones, at least I'd say 10 to 20 tuna a year caught from the shore, and that'll be on live baits when they come in very close into your deep water points. But yeah, it's quite a rarity. Off the boat, you would have seen videos of Ray doing your live bait. It's probably, I'd say, the most popular method of catching tuna is just to pin a live bait on a circle hook or a size 2 treble. But other methods are lures. They love anything that's moving, so trawling lures is very effective for them, especially for the bigger tuna. And then the most exciting way of catching them is with a popper. Seeing any sort of decent sized tuna smash a popper on the surface will stay with you forever. It gets the heart pumping, it'll get your hands trembling. It is the best way to catch tuna. So yeah, guys, fantastic tuna, lovely to eat, very flexible in terms of what you can do with it, which is very cool. But a good species, a sustainable species, and one that produces one of the best fights on offshore, definitely. So get out there, catch a tuna. Cheers.